Have you seen the Bitcoin price today, my brother?
You turned a lot of post-fight interviews into those unexpected moments of inspiration where people come away not just talking about the fight, but the ideas that you bring to the mic. And they also get a little bit of a reading list at the end of it. So today, I want to dig into a bit of the man behind the fighter. Like, what shaped you not just as an athlete, but as a thinker? You know, if we could just start at the beginning and like talk about the seeds for how Renato Moicano were planted. You know, the guy shouting out Austrian economics after a fight.
I'll read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian economic school. Yeah, like I start to try to understand because before, like when I was a kid and even a little bit after, like I was not caring too much about money, politics, economic, nothing. But I remember when I moved to the USA in 2018, and I remember Trump was at the office, and we had a guy on Brazil named Bolsonaro, and everybody was talking about this new guy and stuff, and they were talking about how democracy was in danger because of this kind of popular leaders all around the world. And then I ask myself, what's democracy? I don't know what's democracy. I know like democracy, you're supposed to go vote, but what is democracy? And then I start to ask myself, what is democracy? What is a republic? And then I went to read the classics, the books about the Roman Empire, about Greece, about like how political system they were created. And then I start to get my head around this kind of topic. Like when it was 2020, 2020, I never had thought about money. I fighting because I like to compete. But then on 2020, with for the COVID situation and stuff, I say now I want to make money. I never had back in the day. I didn't have like investments. I was just fighting and saving my money on the bank. But then I thought no. Now I want to invest because I have a little bit money saved, and I want to buy a home. I want to buy that, and then I start to try to educate myself, like you said, by myself through the internet and like learning about stocks. And then I realized that I would not be a good stock picker, and then I went like with ETFs. You know, I went with this mutual funds and stuff, and I start to learn about stocks. And I remember on 2021, somebody in the gym, everybody was talking about Bitcoin, like people talking about Bitcoin, and I didn't know what it was. But I had like a year or so investing on the stock market, and I say, okay, let me buy some of this. At the time was like, I don't remember, but it was like something like K 35, something like that. And then I bought some, like I bought like $5,000, and I forget about that, you know. But then went up and then went high, then crashed right on 2021 after the halving. And I say, man, what is this? And then I didn't sell, I did not sell my Bitcoins at the time, but I was a little bit worried about that because after that we saw all the NFTs and all that kind of stuff going on. And then I bought some crypto games. I lost a lot of money on these fucking NFTs in crypto games. And no, this is fucked. Yeah. I said, this is fucked up. I don't want to mess with that. But I have the mentality that even before Bitcoin, now even more than ever, but even before, I was thinking about, if I buy something, I don't want to sell, you know. That was always my mindset. So I didn't sell the Bitcoin. And then there was a guy from Brazil that he had a book named Bitcoin Red Pill, that I read this book. And at this time I knew about all the because I did a lot of courses to understand like the network, how Bitcoin works, what's proof of work, what the problems that they solve, and it solve, and like how the mechanism work, how everything about Bitcoin. I knew like the technical details. But I read this book, on this book, the guy is Renato Moicano, Bitcoin Red Pill, and he talk about the Austrian economics. He talk about all that stuff. He was talking about the moral and the philosophical side of Bitcoin. And then I went on a hole, like buying all the Austrian economics. I bought the safe, the Bitcoin standard, and I was reading all these books, and then everything made sense. And I say, man, this is not about making money. This is about uh, don't let government win. Don't let government get the power. Don't let government freeze your assets. And more and more I start to understand about the very basic concepts in economic, like supply and demand, and uh, what's the value of money, and what's money, how they created money. And then I went on this rabbit hole to read all these books about economics and politics. And once you see, you never can not see anymore. Once you see that the financial system is fucked up, once you see democracy is a fallacy, once you see everybody wants to, like the regular people, they want free shit. The government want to get elected, so they're gonna promise free shit for the people, and they're going to fucked up the other part of the population through inflation and through taxation and through control. And once you understand that the government is a institution that always want to grow and grow and overgrow and overreach to the population, you understand we are not safe, and money is not going to protect you. You have to protect yourself by securing your assets in a hard, sound money that can not be inflated and that it cannot be seized. And then I start about Bitcoin more and more, and then I become like a advocate of Bitcoin and about freedom.
One of the hardest parts about explaining Bitcoin to other people is because it's like you can't do it in like 5-10 minutes. You have to go down to the source. You have to go down to like what money actually is.
Exactly.
You find yourself at the end of that conversation 3 hours later talking about like seashells and bartering.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And it's so tricky, for me, the moment was like sometime in 2013, 2014. I was studying finance at university, and we're talking about economics. I think it was a macroeconomics course, and we mentioned like the growing national debt, and you just start looking at this like ticker of like this red number just going
Yes.
up, like not decreasing. And I asked the question, I'm like, well, like what do we do about that? And like the professor didn't have an answer. We just kind of ignored it. And from that point, the seed of doubt was planted. I'd like never went into work in finance. I became an entrepreneur, became a writer, and found my way into crypto. I should have gotten into it in 2014. I'd be much better off. I don't know. Do you find yourself as being like the Bitcoin guy within your friend group and your community now after the 4 or 5 years that you've been into it? Are people coming to you for like, Renato, when should I buy? When should I sell?
Yeah.
What do you think
Yeah.
about Bitcoin? What do you think about Trump coin? What do you think about this?
Yes, and financing in general. But like you say, I always tell them, man, don't buy Bitcoin if you don't want to study. Because if you buy because the price is going up, you're going to sell when the price is going down. And you have to understand that. And that's what I want to talk about. Unfortunately, I did not win my fight. But after the fight, I would like to quote the Murray Rothbard book, What Has Government Done to Our Money? Because I explain very well the situation that we are in. People say, Bitcoin cannot be labeled as money because it fluctuates the price. And that book say exactly this: the price should fluctuate. It should be a commodity chosen by the free market, and not this piece of paper, this dollar, that like the price is the same, but how it's controlled, because there is no supply and demand. That's something that the government enforces on you. So like gold was before, a commodity that there was, the price fluctuated through supply and demand, and there was no control. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this book, because I tell this to people. I say, man, you have to understand, like you say, you have to understand the debit. The debit is something that nobody talks about, but it's very simple. And that's why I like the Austrian Economic School, because you can understand on your own life. That means if you make less money than you spend, you're going to be in debit. And over the years, if you keep maxing out your credit card and not pay, eventually you're going to go to the jail. People are going to seize your stuff. You're not going to have your home if you don't pay your home. But why government has the right to enslave the next generation to debit, because that's why the prices are, you cannot afford anymore a home. That's why young people are not marrying, and it's a habit roll. And then we have less family, less values, and then more people depending on the government. So the government loves that. He loves that ignorance. He loves that people don't know about what, how and why welfare is so bad for society in general. We think we are helping people, but actually you enslaving people to debit and to handouts from the government. So it's very hard to explain to somebody that really want to understand Bitcoin, because you have to get a grasp of these concepts, how the government is bad, how our money is a fucking joke, how central banks control interest rates so they can buy bonds of the government. That's crazy. Quantitative easing is just a scam. People don't know. When you realize that central banks like the Federal Reserve, that is a private institution, can buy bonds from the government of the interest rates they lower because they cannot pay the interest of the debit. And you say, man, it's all a scheme, and it's been running for 100 years, right? At least since 1971, right? When they get rid of the gold standard. So central banks are bad, governments are bad, and they say they want to help you. No, they want to help themselves. They want to be in power, and they will do everything in their power to keep you with the same fiat currency mentality. So it's very hard, but I try to explain people Bitcoin, but they don't want it. And you know what? I can give you the word, but only yourself can save yourself and your family. And I think Bitcoin is about that. It's about responsibility, self-custody. You understand that if you fucked up, you lost your fucking Bitcoin. There is no manager that can help you to get back your coins if you do mess up with your transaction or with your wallet. I just love the whole concept about Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's intimidating, I think, for a lot of people, because it's also like some cowboy shit. I saw this meme that was like the hardware wallet pack. It's like a Glock 19 and like a Ledger Nano S, and it's like, this is all you need to secure your wealth. It's when people, the idea of like become your own bank is super appealing philosophically, but for a lot of people, like the responsibility of being your own bank is also pretty heavy. And I think all the infrastructure in crypto to make that easier for people has yet to develop, but it's getting there. I think there have been big movements in self-custody platforms. People from other countries resonate more with Bitcoin and the ideas behind like a decentralized currency, or they resonate with it quicker. My family is Bulgarian, and I just grew up hearing stories that like you get your paycheck, you get groceries like that same hour, because you're not going to get the same amount of groceries at the end of the day with that one paycheck. And you're seeing like a big movement towards, I don't know if self-sovereignty is the right word, but how you're seeing like El Salvador's Bukele, and then Milei in Argentina, there's this movement to more libertarian ideals, not necessarily pro crypto. I guess like in Bukele's case, he hopes like it hits $1 million. That'll be great for them. But
Yeah.
There's like this global movement where it's hard to picture it outside of like a story. It just seems like it's two sides pinned against each other. You have like the central people who control the power, and then you have like this decentralized group of people all over the world, this like unified movement away from like centralized power, at least in terms of like being able to control, money, because money is at the end of the day just like storing your energy,
Value,
efforts,
energy, yeah.
right? All the time you're spending working is just being diminished because unelected people are the ones that are like choosing to print more currency. So
And
you've
not only
spoken
that,
about,
because like you say, like the meme, right? And if you buy a ledger, you trusting on the developer, right? You trusting on the company, because in a way, I don't think Ledger is an open protocol, and even if it was, they have like your data and stuff. So the rabbit hole goes way further with Bitcoin. You have to know a lot of stuff, and that's why Bitcoin is still giving, the price is still fluctuating very much, and you can make a lot of money because it's hard. It's not easy. But like you say, eventually 10 years from now, 15 years from now will be much easy, but the price will be much higher too. So you buy Bitcoin in the price that you deserve. If you want to learn a lot, if you want to learn, if you want to put the time, if you want to put the effort, you're going to buy with the right price. If you don't want to now, you're going to buy later much, much, much the price much higher. Up to you. And like you're saying about Argentina, Malay, and Bulgaria, I think the government has abused its power for a long time. He's been abusing the power in Latin America. United States is still safe of that hyperinflation, but we never know. We never know the future. One thing is for sure: Bitcoin has no top, because fiat currency, there is no bottom, because they're gonna keep printing money, and there is no solution, because for the government the only solution is print more money. Like Trump is saying that he gonna create this doge and cut spending, but what he's going to cut that is going to be significant for the country? Is he going to cut social security? I don't think so. Is he gonna cut spending with the military? I don't think so. He's going to stop giving people welfare with the medicals, with the I don't even remember the name, cage, right? With all that stuff. I don't think so, because in a democracy you have to please the masses and you have to please most of the people so you can be on power. Otherwise they're gonna overthrow you. So it's a very hard thing to understand, but the fiat currency has a time. We don't know how much time we have left, but eventually that stuff going to collapse, because like I was saying, if you keep spending more than you earn, eventually you're gonna go broke. And America is in much better situation than the other countries that we are talking about. But eventually, people gonna start to realize the bonds are not that they paying you 4% for a good reason, because the debt is just too high, and because they are the global world currency right now. But we don't know about 10 years from now, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you're a king of short notice.
Yeah.
I've determined that, like, you've taken so many short notice fights, you do great. And
Yeah.
even this interview, we set it up like 12 hours ago. You're like always locked in. You're ready to talk, deep crypto, deep economics at any point in time. You're able to, do these post-fight interviews with like your heartbeat at, 150 to 180 beats per minute. Like you just finished a UFC fight and you're like dishing out wisdom on people. So like, how do you stay locked in mentally? I think like a lot of people that are on their like self-education journey, especially athletes, it's one thing to like get really, really good at like what you're trying to do. Like when I train jujitsu, I train maybe 2, 3 hours a day. I get home and I just lay down on the couch, or I'm just like sitting down, I'm like, oh my God, that sucked. What do I need to do better? How did that happen to me?
Yeah.
So attach like another thing you're learning about, like economics or crypto or whatever it is. Like how do you find the balance, especially with such a demanding job as being a UFC fighter, and then also something as like not as clear as cryptocurrency?
Because like I was saying, you tell well, because you say money is just a tool to store your energy, right? Money, that's the word that was money supposed to be, store of value, and to exchange. We have the concepts of what is good money, but fiat currency is not a good money. And why I am so interested about this topic, because I have been working my whole life. I have 35 years and I have been working since I am 11 years old, and I just lose money all the time to inflation. If I had to, since I was 19, if I could save my money, if you have the right mentality, if you don't gamble, if you don't drink, if you don't spend money on parties, if you do everything right and you keep your money on the bank, you're still losing. You're still losing in life. The government is still robbing you. And I'm got sick of that. I don't want the government stealing my money through taxation. I don't want a government getting my money and putting on stuff that I don't believe. If I don't believe in wars, why I have to finance a war through taxes? They do that through taxation and through inflation. So now I understand the real problem is the government, because you cannot do what you want with your money, and that's not a free market. That's not capitalism. That's interventionism. And Ludwig von Mises, on the book that I said, like 6 lessons. I don't remember the name in English, but it's not 6 lessons. 6 lessons is the Portuguese name. And he say about that, what's capitalism, what's socialism, what's interventionism. And we live in an interventionism stage that want to control and dictate what you do with your money. You don't own your body. You cannot do what you want with your body. So I just interested on this because there is no way around. There is no way around. I can become UFC champion, and if I don't invest my money, if I don't know money, you're going to lose to inflation. So what's the whole point of working? And if you live in a society, in a society that is don't see value on working, on store money, we will become a bunch of lazy motherfuckers that don't want to work. It's just like that, you know. And that's why I keep trying to read and to understand and to self educate myself, because I don't want to lose. I have a family. I want to understand how the world works, and I'm always on the pursuit of the true and the beauty and the moral. I believe in right and wrong, and I always want to do the right, and I always want to see what is right and what is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched a lot of points on inflation that a lot of people fail to account that inflation generally, like if you're more affluent and you're buying assets, like you're buying stocks and houses, the price of those assets are going to increase with inflation, maybe not like directly one for one, but like they're going to increase. But if you can't afford to buy those assets and hold those things, and you're living more paycheck to paycheck, you have maybe a little bit of savings, then inflation's hitting you the hardest, because not only are your dollars worth less, everything else is becoming more expensive, and your quality of life is just diminishing without you actually tracking with inflation. Um,
Exactly.
so it's very hard to counteract that too, because it's kind of like this impossible game that people are stuck in. And financial literacy is one of those things that's hard to do self-directed, because a lot of the information out there is like trying to tell you that the system works.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point that you bring, because people don't realize that inflation is good for the rich, because you can buy assets that gonna grow in value over time. So if you own houses, guess what? The prices of the rent, they're gonna go up with inflation. And because there is no such thing as like increasing in prices if there is no more productivity. And if you see the stock market on the last 3 or 4 years, they are skyrocketing, even though we don't have a gain in productivity. Why? Because all the money that was printed and given to people is returned to the rich people that are going to invest and put money on the stocks. So they call this the big melt up, right? The stock's going to go up. And guess what? I don't think Trump is going to fix that. I think the stocks are still going up. I think house prices of homes will still be shooting up. Bitcoin will still be shooting up. Why? Because the system is broke. The only way to fix the system is spend less money. And since you went to the college and you studied like financial system, you have this modern money theory that thinks that more the government spend, that's going to grow the economy. And that could be true in a sense, but one day you have to pay the price. It's the cycle, right? Of the debit is the cycle of the economics, and one day we have to pay the debit. But what about if you cannot pay the debit? What about if people are not having more children? What about if now we have more people on social securities because they are living longer with no kids? So if you see the future doesn't look bright for me. The future looks bad. So you have to understand, and you have to save your money in something that will store its value and will appreciate you over time. I see in America. America is good today, but 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be like Brazil. You're going to have super rich and you're going to have super poor. And what makes America good is the middle class. The middle class is strong, but it's going to get worse for the middle class, because the super rich don't pay taxes. They have the best accountants. They have the best strategy. They have the S corps and the LLCs, and then they put their money outside the country and they don't pay taxes. Ask Jeff Bezos how much he pay in tax. Ask Trump or even any billionaire. And the poor people don't pay taxes because the middle class is going to pay every welfare handouts and social programs. So government wants to get all the money of the middle class, and they want people poor so these people can vote in, and the government can be on the power.
That's replicated itself in a lot of different like governments throughout history. right? Part of it is like disenfranchising people, like removing their opportunities and making them very like hungry to vote for the next thing that's going to fix their problem. So it's constantly just throwing problems for them to solve, to attempt to solve. And a lot of these problems that have been created are not really, it's hard to tell. I'm doubtful that it's like thoughtfully designed. Like there's this belief that there's like a central group of
Yeah,
people out there that are like moving the chess pieces and
yeah.
doing everything. I have this belief that like no matter how high up the hierarchy goes, they're human beings, and human beings always have a propensity to fuck things up. So even
100%.
if they have like 100-year plan of how we're going to take over the world, chances are someone's going to drop the ball because it's just so hard to plan for all these black swan events that happen. But I'm an optimist in that like right now is the best time to be like a high agency person. Like you take full agency over yourself and your family, and you say, I can go out there and I can learn these things, I can take these actions, I can build the life that I want to live. And I think now is the best possible time to do that. Fighting has always had this like deep connection to philosophy. Plato was a wrestler. Socrates and Marcus Aurelius both advocated for fitness as a foundation for mental clarity and virtue. Teddy Roosevelt boxed, and he even got into jujitsu in like the later stages of his life. It kind of feels like there's a reemergence of that in some capacity, where a lot of the people who have really strong social commentary in regards to economics and politics are coming from fighting backgrounds, and these are really sound structured arguments that are, you know, amassing a lot of attention and followers. Like Joe Rogan, he's a black belt. Jocko Willink, he's a black belt. Lex Friedman, black belt. And Renato Moicano, black belt. All these black belts are having such like poignant conversations on economics, life, philosophy. They're interviewing presidents. They're interviewing like cultural leaders. You interviewed Saifedean from the Bitcoin Standard, and they're distributing these ideas, and people are following, and they're doing their self education through you guys. So I'm not really sure if there's a question there. It's like there's some connection between combat sports and the effect that fighting has on sharpening your mindset and outlook in ways that go beyond that physicality.
I think I like Bitcoin. Martial arts are proof of work. So you have to go over there. You have to test yourself. You have to work and get the rewards. And once you realize that to accomplish something, you have to put in the work. Not only martial arts, but every sport. Like if you want to be champion, you have to compete. To compete, you have to train. So you have to train. You have to show over there, and that's not guaranteed. You're going to try against another machines per se, right? So
Right.
like the mining, and whoever is the best, the faster, gonna get the prize. It is like the Bitcoin network, and I think a lot of these guys like Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, I'm a huge fan of these guys and podcasting because that's a long format that you can really have long conversations that you can explain your point. And that was how I learned English too, because when I got in USA, I didn't speak English at all. So I was watching podcasts and trying to figure out what they were saying. Maybe I was influenced by that. But I think in podcast, in life, and why people are talking about this topic is this pursuit of true. I think true is the most important thing in life, and I think you have to direct. Some people are gonna call Jesus and God, but you can call true too. So if you try to follow the true, if you are true to yourself, you're gonna get in good places in life, because only the truth can set you free. And I think Bitcoin is like the true economically, is the truth of money. And I think that's the correlation between sports, hard work, and philosophy, because it's all connected. And I think that's a great time to be alive. Like you say, you can learn. Man, it's funny because for free you can go to a Lex Friedman podcast and see he talking with Malay. We can see we talking with Saifedean, which is an unbelievable guy. I watch him on Lex Friedman, and that was a lesson about Austrian skill economics and Bitcoin. So with the internet, you can do whatever you want, good things and bad things. So if you are in pursuit of true, you definitely can. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but you definitely can go after the truth and try to make your life better.
There's a broader movement of a lot of techie and startup-y guys starting to do some form of combat training, like on a small scale, like even
Zuckerberg,
with a
right?
lot. Sorry?
Like Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And like two of the last five writers, purely by coincidence, at CoinCentral or Blue Belts, both actively competing. So like we have these like side channels where we're just straight up to talking about jujitsu and cutting weight and like, oh, you got staph, that sucks. You got to take this antibiotic. You got to do this thing. And it's like a new video game everybody's kind of playing on the side. People are more drawn to UFC. They're drawn to combat sports in the tech community as well. Jiu-jitsu is growing in popularity. Like this last year was incredible with ADCC and CJI competing against
Yeah.
each other. Like I was halfway across the world. I was in London. I was training at a gym there, and I'm like watching it at night. I'm like, this is just amazing. You know,
Yeah.
I don't see that slowing down. I don't see like people stepping away from wanting to learn how to do the. I mean, I wouldn't say the gentle art of jujitsu. My body's pretty banged up, but yeah,
Yeah, I think like we born to compete, you know, we born to compete. Every human being, if you living, like you competing against some other people, it's just the nature. And when you go to a jiu-jitsu class, you don't get too hurt, you know. Like boxing, you can go compete but you get hurt. Jiu-jitsu, you can hurt yourself, but it's kind of easy on the body, but at the same time it's very effective, you know. So I think that makes sense. I think more people will go towards jiu-jitsu, trying to find this like way to defend themselves, way to be confident, to have confidence, and to be fit, you know, to be healthy. I think jiu-jitsu is a great tool for so you can like focus and channeling your aggression, you know, your competitiveness. So I think it's a great thing that jiu-jitsu is growing. And I agree with you. Last year was huge for jiu-jitsu. ADCC and CGI, they were very different, but they were funny and they were good to watch.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I view jujitsu, at least from my point of view, of like if I spend most of my day like behind a laptop writing, it takes like your mindset, it shifts from doing very abstract things where there's no clear success or fail, right? Like, you know, if I write an article and like a million people read it, I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it could have been 10 million, it could have been 100 million, it could have been like this guy or that guy. But when you go to practice jujitsu, you have a very concrete feedback loop. So it takes like your problems from the abstract to the concrete. You either, you know, one on points, you got a submission, you know, or you got put in a submission you couldn't get out of, or like a guy just got into like side mount and you couldn't get out of it and you were stuck there for 5 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
I find that that's super interesting. I love that proof of work analogy because I'm kind of making the comparison between like proof of work being those closed feedback loops and then proof of stake being like the more like abstract, like, okay, well, like you're going to keep making tokens, but like what's going to uphold the token value? And they're going to say like, oh, well, we have this mechanism where we buy back the tokens. And I'm like, I don't get it, you know,
Yeah.
time, but I don't want to like impose on your schedule. I know you're a father now and you've got a busy week and you got
Fuck that, my brother. I want to fight. I want money.
the Money Moicano podcast and everything.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about that I didn't touch on?
No, I think we good. If you need me any day soon, just call me. We can do again. You know, I like the
That'd be
conversation,
awesome.
and I think that's important. You know, the last message that I want to leave to everybody is this. I think you have to be held accountable for your actions. You have to understand that is good and that is wrong, that is right and that is wrong, that is bad and that is good. And like you say, most of people nowadays they are stuck in this abstract mentality because everything is relative and stuff. No, go over there, train some jujitsu, do some stuff that remember you that you are a human being. Do something meaningful with your life, and if you can, make money and buy Bitcoin and study Bitcoin and let people know that you're doing that.